I got into this debate that in part revolved around someone's right to say racist, sexist, or homophobic comments, and I realized just how many of us are victims of this doctrine of absolute tolerance, or what Herbert Marcuse more aptly calls repressive tolerance. Repressive tolerance and absolute tolerance are basically the same things, except that repressive tolerance is a more honest description of what absolute tolerance really is. Under a doctrine of absolute tolerance, one might say or think that tolerance is the greatest virtue, and that we should all tolerate everything and everyone. The problem with this is that it either ignores the existence of oppression, or it recognizes but tolerates oppression. Marcuse points out the problem with this kind of tolerance is that it helps silence countervailing voices that promote ethical behaviors and call for an end to oppressive institutions. And if absolute or repressive tolerance is practiced under oppressive institutions, words and actions that contribute to the subjugation of the oppressed will continue to be tolerated. Now, theoretically, the oppressed would be awarded the same tolerance, but because there is a struggle between the oppressor group and the oppressed, in which the dominant class holds the greater amount of power and privilege, the oppressed will not be tolerated by these institutions. They'll get cut out of the conversation. They'll be silenced. The countervailing voices that speak against oppression are called then intolerant and silenced through these ad hominem attacks, while the oppressive forces can withstand these attacks and withstand the label of being intolerant because they have the power. They're able to, through sheer repetition and dominance, stay in the conversation and keep the ideology perpetuated. And you can see this with Fox News and other media organizations. Fox News, for instance, is called faux news a lot of times, and they're labeled as an intolerant propaganda machine that lies all the time to the American people. But just because it gets all those labels and it gets all these attacks on them doesn't mean that they're going to be any less efficient and effective of getting their message out there. You know, it's a media giant owned by Rupert Murdoch. And so yeah, you can label it all you want, but it's not going to change the amount of influence and power that it has. That's not the case with the countervailing voices that are trying to speak out against oppression. So really, when it gets right down to it, you can't have the same standards for oppressive institutions and the dominant force and the countervailing voices that are the oppressed and trying to fight against it. It's not an equal playing field to begin with. You're just deceiving yourself into thinking it is. A doctrine of absolute tolerance is similar to a doctrine of absolute equality, wherein it only serves to benefit those who have power and privilege in society, and whose group already has the greatest power in society.